Hello everyone. Welcome to the Clarity, Supportability, and Future Training. My name is Bill Yee, and I will cover the new enhancements around task updates for Clarity 16.1.0. So what's new in the area of task updates for this release is for the Global Task Workspace, we added a new and improved board to help you organize tasks. Within that board, you can be able to configure the cards, the titles, the fields, the metrics in different views. We also added the ability to do drag and drop of cards, not only in columns, but we added the addition of swim lanes that you can configure within the same board layout. And also, too, we've integrated that new and improved board with the common filters, search, save view, view options, and the ability to edit the cards within the flyout. Also in the Global Task Workspace, we added a calendar layout to help schedule tasks. We've added the ability to do infinite scrolling when you're either in the week or monthly range to help kind of meet your growing task needs. And also, too, we've integrated the common filter, search, save view, and view options, and the ability to edit fields within the flyout in the calendar layout. And last but not least, we've enhanced the task workspace to support business rules. And that's also enforced not only in the grid, but the board and the calendar. So why are these updates important? So we've heard from customers, and actually this feature is requested from our innovation site to have the ability to perform prioritization at a higher level. And we'd like to see tasks across projects and manage them across projects or even other investments. And adding that new task calendar and board to the existing grid layout provides that those users to be able to manage those investments across their organization. So I'm going to first cover the new task workspace improvements that are applied for both the board and the calendar. So first thing we did is that we've integrated our board and calendar to our common components, those being our filter, flyout, search, and widgets. And also, too, we've integrated their view options, and each calendar and board have their independent view options and have those preserved inside the save views. Also in the task workspace, we added business rule support. And this is not only on the board and the calendar, but we also added it within the grid. So any editing within the grid or the flyout, that also the editing within the flyout can also happen within the board and the calendar. Those business rules will be enforced. But also too on the board and the calendar, you can do editing operations via drag and dropping of cards. And the business rule support will be enforced when you're doing drag and drop as well. So now we're going to cover the Global Task Workspace board-specific improvements. So, and first we're going to start off here with the view options. So under the gear icon, this is how you access the view options. And for the board, you have the ability to set the columns using a task lookup. But also what's new within this release, we have the ability to add swim lanes. And this will also be a task lookup you'll be able to set under view options. The sort is specific to the column area. So it does the sorting within the particular columns. And you provide the attribute that you want to sort on. And for the color, this is based on a lookup attribute on the task object, and if it has display mappings configured, based on the value it will show the appropriate color. There's a color bar on the left side of the card that it will be mapped to the display mappings. You also have the ability within the card to show or hide the labels within the card using this toggle. And last but not least, you're able to configure the fields, the metrics, and the titles within the card under this configure link. Now under the configure card link, this is where you can configure the fields within the card. Now the way the card is set up is broken out into three sections. The top portion is the titles, the middle section is the fields, and the bottom section is the metrics. And the way within the card configuration is set up is that you'll have a list of the fields to be able to drag and drop into either the titles, fields, or metrics, but there's some rules related to each of the specific fields. Let's first cover the titles. There's a maximum of 2 title fields per card, and they expand the width of the card. the investment name out of the box, it becomes linkable. So if you have investment names, so if you look at the bottom, you're able to drill down on the link and it'll take you to that particular investment, and there's a backlink to get you back to the card as well. By default, the labels will not display for the titles. And you also have the field section. There's a maximum of 6 fields per card, 2 columns across. And just like the titles, you're able to drag and drop those fields from this section over into the field section. And with the metrics, you have a maximum of 6 metrics per card, and then it's 3 of the columns across for the metrics. They come in an abbreviated format similar to like the project tiles, you've seen those before, and you'll only be able to configure numeric attributes within the metrics. And here's an example of the card, how it looks at runtime. You have the task name, investment name. We have our special widget for the assigned resources. This is the out-of-the-box area in terms of what we provide. And this here we have 4 assigned resources, and it displays up to 3 avatars. And then when it gets above there, we have a overflow counter with the number of additional resources assigned. Here, the status field, start and finish date of the task, and also to the metrics, which are numeric. For this one is etc, duration, and percent complete. Now in this slide, we're going to cover filtering specifically for the task workspace board. And there's some special logic depending on how you set up your filtering. Now if you don't have any filters at all, what the board will display are the columns and or swim lanes that have at least 1 card. And that's similar to how the board works today in Clarity in the old board. But if you're filtering on the lookup that's configured for the columns or the swim lane, there's special logic. So here what I've taken the filter and kind of magnified it up top. And task owner right now is set up for columns. And I have it set up for 4 specific resources. And what it does right now, it will show those specific columns, if they have cards or not, within the board. So this is a way of actually limiting, okay, if you want to look for a selected set of columns, just filter on it based on what you have set in the columns under view options. And the same holds true for swim lanes. Swim lane is set for status, and this one I'm actually here, I'm filtering on not started and started. So it only shows not started and started. So it's a way of actually limiting the columns and the swim lanes that you want to see. So you may want to do some editing for these, or drag and dropping within these particular columns or swim lanes to better kind of manage and adjust your cards within the board. And also too, you may want to also leverage the view options, because you can have different configurations within the view options and save that as a save view for quick and easy access. So in the task workspace board, one way of editing attributes is via the flyout, and there's 3 ways of actually opening up the flyout. So one way is actually selecting the cards you want to update the fields on. Click on right mouse click, and then that will open up the flyout. Another way is selecting the card and clicking on the details tab, and that will open the flyout. And the other way to open up the flyout is double clicking on the card, and that will open up the flyout as well. Here are some additional user interactions around editing cards within the task workspace board. One way is if you right mouse click, there's a way of, if you want to move cards between columns, right mouse click and choose the move columns. You can choose the selected column to choose from and move it to by selecting it via the right mouse click context menu. And the same goes also to, there's one for swim lanes as well. Just choose that one and choose to move, the card from right now from not started to started into a new swim lane. And also too, by selecting the card, you can also update fields within the flyout. You'll use this method if there's areas in where you don't have the attributes that are shown within a swim lane or a column, you will configure that within the flyout. Another way of editing within the task workspace board is via drag and drop. You can move cards, select a certain card, and move it between swim lanes or within columns. You also have the ability within the board is to select multiple cards, either by control select, or also to, if you have a Mac, it's command select, and then you can drag it either to a column or swim lane as you wish. So currently right now the task workspace board can only show a maximum of 1,000 cards that can be displayed. But we also added some card distribution logic to make it as though, say for example, you don't want to have all the cards shown all in one column. So we added logic to where we distribute the cards across different columns or columns and swim lanes. So it's easier and more presentable to read and work with within the board. So here's some of the logic. Is that if you're using just columns only within the board, we show a maximum of 1,000 columns, well, 1,000 cards in a particular column. So we'll try to distribute that most appropriately within the board. If you're using both columns and swim lanes, we try the maximum that you can have within a kind of a intersection of a column swim lane is 50, and we try to distribute that up to 1,000 cards. There could be situations within that 1,000 you may not be able to see the card you're looking for. In that situation, you'll need to filter down your results to get the cards that you want to update. So next we're going to cover the Global Task Workspace calendar enhancements. Now the calendar is not beta compared with what's on the board. So first we're going to cover the areas of the view options. So it's the same place where you access the view options with the gear icon up on the header. And the first field is the range field. And you're able to select how you want to display the calendar, either a week or by month. The next is the date. This drives where the card will be plotted within the calendar. So here's the finish date, and it'll be plotted either by the week range or month range. Sorting is based on how the cards will be sorted either within the column, which is more on the week range, or cell, which is more on the month range. Color is based on the lookup you have configured in this field. It will display the display mapping color that's defined within Studio. And if you don't have any display mappings, it will show no color. And lastly, you can toggle on and off to show the weekends within the calendar. So here's the card display for both the week and the month range. Now note the fields within each of the card displays are not configurable, and that's targeted for a later release. So let's first cover the week card display. And this is the same as what is displayed within the board. You have the task name up top and the investment name below it, which is linkable with an icon that identifies the investment type. This is the task status, and also too it has the assigned resources widget where it shows a maximum of 3 avatars with an overflow counter if there's more than 3 resources assigned. And in the month range card display, its avatar with assigned resources will show only 1 avatar with the overflow after that, and it displays the task name within this within one line, and the whole bar will be colored based on the color defined within view options. So accessing the flyout within the task calendar workspace is easy. Just select the card and then click the details flyout to edit the fields for each of the cards. So there are different ways of editing the fields or editing the cards within the calendar workspace. One area is you can actually do a right mouse click and you have operation to delete a card within the calendar. And as I mentioned before, you can also edit attributes and fields within the flyout just by selecting the card and clicking the details tab. Other ways is just selecting the card and dragging them across different cells or columns within the calendar. Just note that right now within the calendar workspace that the drag and drop is only for a single card. We're checking out and looking at enhancement to select multiple cards to drag and drop. Currently right now it's just a single card at a time. So next I'm going to discuss the overflow popover on the calendar. Now this applies to the month range display in that, say for example, we have too many card items to display within one cell. It displays as more link here, and once you click on it, here's the overflow popover, which displays the remaining cards that we couldn't display within a particular cell in the calendar. The nice thing about this is that once you have the overflow popover displayed, you can drag items within the overflow popover into any cell within the calendar. And also too, you're able to drag that overflow popover to different areas within the calendar. So you see here you can drag, it starts in the lower left corner, then we move it over to the right, and then we move it here to the center. So you can move that around, because just in case the popover is covering a particular cell, you want to drag the card inside there, just move the overflow popover, drag the particular item into the cell that you would like. So in this slide I'm going to discuss the calendar carousel and the user interaction navigation you can do here. So it's in the upper left corner of the calendar, and there's arrows on each on the left and the right of it, so you can go backwards and forwards, and it'll switch the either month in terms of you're in the month range, or weeks in terms of in the week range, and it updates the calendar appropriately based on what the arrows you click. If you click on the text within the calendar carousel, it would actually bring up our standard calendar widget. And this is a way if you want to navigate ahead either by months or years within there, you can do that via the calendar widget. Either clicking the month text again gets you into the area of navigating to a specific month for a specific year. And then once you click a particular date, it will update the main canvas, either week or month range as need be. And then say if you want to get back to the current date real quickly, you can go there into the calendar carousel and click the today, and it'll bring you back to today to quickly get you back to the current date. So in the task workspace calendar, we've implemented infinite scrolling. So it allows us to support a large number of records, and as you scroll through the calendar, it reads chunks of the record at a time, as opposed to reading all your records all into the browser and be able to manage that. So and your browser probably can't handle that many records. So the infinite scrolling, we just read as you're scrolling, you're reading chunks of records at a time. Now, this is primarily you'll see that in the weekly range when you're scrolling through columns, or the unassigned column, and also too on the month range, the overflow popover has infinite scrolling to handle a large amount of records. And also in the calendar that we also used within the board, we also have used our distribution algorithm that we had on the board. It also applies in the calendar. So to give you a better experience in terms of the distribution of cards and seeing those cards as opposed to having all the cards into one particular column or cell in the calendar. So let me give you a demonstration of the new task workspace enhancements so you can see them in action. So first I'm going to cover our new board in our global task workspace. So one of the things we've done for this release, we've integrated as part of our common components. You'll be able to actually edit items within our flyout, and you can choose, and it's configured. We've also had the ability where we've integrated as part of our save view, and I'll utilize this throughout my demo. Access to widgets to display within the board, so you can show those within the board as well. Ability to filter and quick search within the board, and also to integration within our view options. So let's take a look at the view options. Here you can also define columns, but also that's new within our board. We have the ability to configure swim lanes as well. The sort is specific to the columns and how it sorts within the within the columns themselves, and the color is also you can utilize based on the display mappings, and it shows it as a bar on the left hand side of the column. You can also hide and show labels within the card as you wish. You can also configure the cards, the content of the cards. So if you go inside here, you can go ahead and you can remove items within the card and choose other areas, so you can drag in actuals, and also you can add metrics within the cards. And so let's find a good one for the card. So it has duration, and with that we can go ahead and apply, and it'll go ahead and update the values within the card. So the configuration is specific to the board. One thing I want to cover is actually the filtering within the board. So say for example, right now if you do no filtering, and right now our swim lanes have a task owner, it will show a swim lane for a particular task owner, at least if it has at least one card. And if it's also a static lookup, it will actually show all the specific values, either in the swim lane or on the columns. But if you add a filter, so let's take one I have for board task owner. You can, let's open up the filter. For the task owner here, we actually select Shell Amos, Jason Berry, Dana Lewis, and Randy Quinn. It will show these items, specifically in this area, the columns, if it has a card or not. And also too, if you look at it, some of these may not even have columns. Like Shell Amos doesn't have a card. It will still show that column. So if you want to go ahead and limit what you want to see to make it more manageable, and if you want to go ahead and drag items to Shell, this is an easier way of actually doing it. And the same goes for swim lanes. Here for the status, I have not started and started, so it only shows those particular swim lanes to help you kind of manage and doing handling drag and drop. You can limit the things you can see within the board. From an editing aspect, you can also select the item, as mentioned in the flyout. You also right mouse click and move it to a specific area. So if you can move it to a column, you can move it here to Jason Berry and handle it that ways. And also too, you can also right mouse and move it to a specific swim lane. Move it from not started to started, and or move it down as well. Also too, we've integrated business rules within the new board. So say for example, I come back to the default view, and let's pick this one. So I've created a business rule in where if work status is sign off, it will make the record read only. So if I choose this one, it makes the whole record read only, but also too, it won't allow you to drag and drop this item because now it's a read only record. So we integrated that within the board too. So first I'm going to cover our new calendar in our global task workspace. So one of the things we did, we've integrated as part of our common components. So we have the ability to edit items within the flyout that you configure and update as you need to. We also have the ability of have it integrated within our save views, and you would choose those as you wish. Be able to show widgets within the calendar and update those as well. You have the quick search and also to filtering within the calendar. Let's take a look at the view options that are specific to the calendar. So the range is week and month. You can view that. If you want to view it month, you can show it this way as well. The date actually where the task card actually is plotted. Here's the actual finish date, and you can also sort it within a particular cell within the month view, and it's the column within the week range. And status wise, it will show the status, and it'll give a color if there's a display mapping set up. So in the month range, it colors the whole bar, and if it's week, it's similar to how on the board you can have a bar on the left hand side to show the color. You can hide and show weekends if you wish, showing it that ways. Editing, you can do if you select a particular item and click on the details, you can edit the flyout items in that ways. You have some capability of right mouse clicking and deleting the item as well this way. We've also integrated business rules within the calendar. So if you select this item, for example, and just like in the board demo, if I select sign off, it will make this record read only. So it made this particular read only, and also too, it will prevent it from being dragged to another cell and having that there. So that is part of the integration here. We've also let me show you the overflow popover. So go ahead, and from here you can go ahead and drag items from the overflow popover into a particular cell and dragging it that way. Let me choose this one. And then also too, you can move this overflow popover anywhere. So if this one's actually covering it, so you can move it over and drag the items into a particular cell as well. This concludes our presentation for our new task updates. Thank you.